Janet Jackson right now. I didn't even know about it. It's always a great day to play some Janet Jackson. The track is Escapade. Good afternoon. I'm Olivia Teno. This is DoubleODirect 360. Yeah, DoubleODirect 360 from 12 to 1 because we're on the radio on Spice FM. We're online on the homepage, standardmedia.co.ke, and live on KTN News. When we tell you that Standard Group is converged, proof right here. But the question is, how can artificial intelligence increase your profitability? Because we all need more money. Have you seen where the dollar is at the moment? Things are crazy. And how can it improve your employability? Because trust me, it's enough of the tarmacking. All right, we keep recycling jobs amongst, it's enough. So we need to improve our profitability and we need to improve our employability. Evelyn Nyarwai, AI integration expert, Charlotte Kepadisa, all the way from South Africa, head of big data and artificial intelligence at Safaricom PLC. Both of them are here. Now, the fascinating part, right, is Charlotte will be completing studies, postgraduate studies at MIT shortly, and then going on to a PhD, which will unpack for us in a bit. And Evelyn was in marketing. She studied broadcasting, Now she's an AI integration expert. There is hope. Do not lose hope. These women are here to prove, yes, you can. Tell me a little bit about that transition, Evelyn.
Yeah, absolutely. One, I'll say it wasn't easy. And I think it never is. Transitioning from something completely different. But I think we were having this conversation and we were saying every 2 years, you need to upskill. Because every 2 years, there's a new skill in the market that you're not being competent on.
And you are hungrier people.
And there's every 2 to 3 years, there's a cycle of new graduates who are put to market. So if you're not upskilling, then there's a cycle of 3 years batch and another 3 years batch that's leaving you and leading you, that's leaving you behind, right? So when I was transitioning from marketing, I started to get an interest. And I think this is where the power of mentorship, right? And particularly, actually, my mentor at this particular time was someone younger than I was. But I admired him because he successfully also transitioned from marketing to tech.
Was it your brother? Was it your brother?
Unfortunately, it wasn't my brother.
Oh, okay.
But it was a guy who I deem as a brother, let's say.
Yeah.
So he had successfully transitioned. So I asked him, how can I do this? And one of the things he told me is, don't look for something too complex. Try and transition into something that comes naturally to you. Build on the skills that you already have. And I was already a marketer. I was good with communication. I was good with planning things. So then I figured, let me transition into product management, which was easy because there's a lot of soft skills that are associated with product management. And then once I was in product management, in a tech company, it was easier for me now to sit down with engineers and get a good feel of what happens in tech, right? And then from there, then it has been a job of upskilling. So what I do is, before I make a transition, because I've also made a transition, from product management to actually being a digital transformation specialist, is I have to learn before I start looking for positions in which I want to move into. So I set a goal. I want to grow into X. And then, manifest it.
Yes.
And then you
vision board.
Yes, you vision board it. And then you learn for it. You prepare yourself for that position. So every year I live online courses. Every single time I'm upskilling to either learn a new skill that in my current role or a new skill that I want to transition in. And I think I'd like to break, the mentality that you have to have studied IT in order for you to do tech. Because actually we come to realize some of our best developers have either been self-taught. They didn't go and do IT in campus. Because I also think our system is a bit broken. If you get, your standard people coming in from the main universities, they still have to learn a lot.
Yes.
So you find that the best developers you have are people who are self-taught, who have put in the effort. And most of the time, someone did some random course, but then now they're in tech. Someone did psychology, and then now they're in tech.
I did psychology in a couple of years. I'm going to be in tech. I see that Charlotte is vehemently nodding her head as you were saying that you're continuously learning and online learning. Tell me about some of the courses and some of the sites that you visited.
Yeah, so I did a project management course, PM certification, and then I also did a product management course because I needed to upskill in that. And then now continuously what I did was started doing courses online. So I also leverage a lot of LinkedIn courses because they allow you to quickly access information from a business point of view.
LinkedIn keeps sending me prompts that since you're interested in X, you should go on. And I keep ignoring them.
You should, because they use AI to recommend those products to you.
Yeah, they do. I would have been so much better at life. Are they free? What are the costs involved in these courses that you
actually
take?
pay a LinkedIn premium to access their LinkedIn platform, learning platform.
Yes.
And I think it's about, so my company pays for it. We're actually very, we
I am going to lobby management. Standard Media Group management. We're going to be lobbying you. But okay, moving out to Charlotte, that was fantastic. I'm going to get back to that. And you are currently completing which course at MIT as you head big data and AI at Safaricom?
It's called Chief Digital Officer,
Yes.
professional certification.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I'm currently completing. In June. Can it just come now? I'm fully exhausted.
Yes.
But yeah, and the idea is just to, what I love about MIT, and they must just pay me for this, is that we get exposed to utilizing technology for good. And that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. It's for good for the customer, for the organization, but also just
for
bringing about
humanity.
change. Exactly. So that's the one part that I really love about the institution. I've done a few things with them in the past. And yeah, I'm looking forward to completing it and moving to something else.
You talked about a PhD during the break. Do you want to expound on that a little bit, or is it too early?
No, that's fine. I can expand. Firstly, before my sister calls me and tells me the difference between PhD and doctorate, it's not a PhD, it's a doctorate.
Okay.
But it's really around AI, especially AI ethics. You'll recall that we've just now, seen in our age the launch of ChatGPT, a large language model that can do many things that people thought is proprietary. I was just reading this morning some of the how much Microsoft has actually invested in this company. So Microsoft really wants to position themselves as the biggest player in everything AI at this stage. And then on top of it, all these other guys are coming up with their version of a large language model. What it does, it really democratizes all things information.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can code through it. You can literally prompt this thing to give you a code. So where does that leave? The formal education of coding, as it were. You can ask it to create a presentation or a prototype, especially in the product and development space. So really, where is this traditional way of education, IT, doing all sorts of things over 3-4 years? Now, then the big responsibility here is to what extent does that information, who owns the IP? That's number one. So if this ChatGPT summarizes books that people have written and comes up with some summary of it, can I then print this thing and sell it? And did I recognize the original contributors of that content?
Yes.
So that becomes a topic of ethics.
Yes.
Where do we then, that's the topic that I want to go into, especially in line with my personal mission, that is AI for good, making sure that we actually use this thing for the betterment of humanity, not just for profits and not only for personal advancement, but to make sure that we leave this world in a better place that we found it in.
What are some of the risks? I remember Oppenheimer's famous quote, when he managed to, finally develop the bomb, I have become death, destroyer of worlds, What are the risks? I know we're here to talk about profit. I know we're here to talk about employability. But with every tool, there is the possibility for, you said you talk about for good, then there is for bad, So currently, as we see it, I'm going to start with you, Evelyn, then I'm going to go on to Charlotte. Anything that comes to your head about misuse, and as you've talked about copyright and IP, but what are some of the challenges, potential pitfalls that we could be facing?
So I think one is actually that the first thing that you mentioned, the misuse of AI. Because so we'd normally sit down and we'll ask, okay, so for every piece of AI tool that you put out there, you always have to ask, how can it be used for good? And then what's the potential risk of it being used for bad? And the potential risk for it being used for bad is extreme, right? So, and I think it's important to actually have people and organizations that are actually sort of safeguard the utilization of AI.
Oversight.
Yes, oversight of how is this AI actually being utilized? Because so I was listening to a story where it was actually a podcast, right? Where they were saying they run certain samples through an algorithm. So they'll put in certain samples and then they'll run it through. And then what they actually ask it is, can you predict some diseases that may be caused? And then they now start building medicine for it.
Yes.
And what they were saying is, I think something happened, and then they built something that was very powerful and had the potential to wipe out mass population.
I'm not going to talk about COVID. I'm going to
let's
pause
just
you. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not going to say they were busy.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but then what they were saying was, within the lab, ethically, they had to kill this thing, because then they had to sit at a point where they were like, if someone actually accessed what this tool is able to do, then we are talking about catastrophic capabilities of what AI can actually do.
Elon Musk
So they had to.
recently backtracked and said, guys, maybe we need to pause. You know, I know I'm always the Energizer Bunny, but maybe we need to pause a little bit in terms of where we're going. So with regards to what you're talking about and oversight and regulation and the bodies that are going to be monitoring the development of AI, what are some of the pitfalls you are envisioning, and why did Elon say, actually, even as much as I've, invested a lot. I'm not going to go into Bill Gates because I didn't hear about the Microsoft investment. What are some of the pitfalls?
I mean, there's one doing the rounds now
Yes.
in the US where AI copies your voice. Yeah. And this is now through all this.
Am I about to be unemployed? Like, what is happening? Where are you going with this talk? where are you going?
So the ability to learn your voice and then call your family and say you are in trouble, send this money to here in order to have this person released, and then play that voice.
Yes.
And that's your voice.
I saw that, and this couple was really, the parents were distraught
freaked
because
out,
they
yeah.
thought that their daughter had been
Yes.
kidnapped and that had potential harm. But the mother, I think, was like, I don't know, and called, and then the daughter answered and said, no, actually, I'm fine. I don't know what that is. And that's how they discovered it was a scam.
Exactly. So those are some of the pitfalls. And for us also, it's, and I love the organization that I work for because we are very much, we put customer first. So you remember that even with this large language model, the ChatGPT model, some of the people that worked on it were actually from Kenya. And the work environment and the setup was not conducive for any human being, honestly, to look at all of these utterances and classify them as whether good or bad and
Yes.
so on. For me, through my upcoming studies, it's actually to delve a little bit down on that and create policies and regulations around how do you govern this thing without stifling innovation.
Exactly.
So we are for innovation. It brings about efficiencies in the economic ecosystem, but it needs to be governed. And as you know, it's a learning algorithm. It's a learning system. Imagine what it can learn that goes way beyond our imagination. And therefore, if it's let loose, what it can do to the world.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to add on to that. Okay, now that you've scared us, let's bring it back because we're about to lose our KTN audience and talk about how AI is being underutilized. Some of the things we can do and how we can incorporate AI in order to make, better economic ecosystem and profitability and efficiencies at the workplace and even in our personal lives.
Absolutely. So I think one is to actually understand how you can use AI, because I think we are sometimes afraid of new technology instead of embracing it and then looking at it from a point of, if it can do X, then what else can I do, right? How can I use this tool to complement me? So for example, on a day-to-day, the amount of decks I've done with ChatGPT,
Decks?
ridiculous.
Okay, so firstly, I have a project. I need to do a presentation. Where do I go to access this deck producing ChatGPT tool, right? So that I can create that perfect deck.
Yeah. So what you do actually with all AI models is you have to teach them. You have to feed them with context information so that it can give you a result.
No question. Is there a website? Is there a URL you can share?
Just your chat. Yeah, OpenAI ChatGPT.
OpenAI. Okay, just search for OpenAI.
ChatGPT.
Okay,
yeah.
so I go on there. Did you pay a fee to access?
So there's a free one.
Yeah.
But now I pay because it has immense benefits for my job. So I pay. I pay for it.
You pay for it, and then what have you been able to do? So you no longer, Canva was having a version of something like that. Does Canva have their AI up and running yet?
I don't know. I know they had a pipeline for it, but I don't know whether they launched it.
So what are you using?
What do I use it on a day-to-day, right? So one, it helps me to structure the content within my decks. So of course I have to feed it with information,
yes,
context around I want to build X, I want to do a proposal for X. Here's a bit of background around what I'm thinking about in terms of strategy. And then it will structure that information for you. So what ChatGPT is good at is it can articulate your thoughts better, right? But you have to have thoughts in the first place, right?
True, and that's why
So
we're going to be
feed it.
going towards more thought-based and reasoning rather than just information regurgitation.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
all right.
So and it's gonna lay it out for you. Other ways that we use it for is sometimes brainstorming. So what are some of the ideas that you have around solving for X? So then that gives you initial thought starters for how to solve a problem.
How will Safaricom be able to double its profits in the next 5 years? Yeah, okay.
Yes, and then of course there are certain things you can't ignore, that it doesn't have context around the African Kenyan market, right?
Charlotte, I'm heading to you. I want some answers on
I
that.
want to give you a couple of, if you were asking what tools, what
Yes.
are some of our favorite AI tools?
Yes.
So for text, this is now text prompts.
Yes.
Lots of them. You've got Humeta, which is humeta.ai.
Yes.
So that's where you'll get that from. For image, I love this one now that you're on radio. There's
Yes.
one that's called the Sound Draw.
Okay.
What it does is it generates music that allows you to create and compose original, royalty-free music.
We will no longer be flagged because we're always being flagged because this is copyrighted to somebody, right? I'm now going to create a whole new bed of music
Yes.
just for DoubleODirect that's in tune with my thinking and my
Yes,
ethos. All right, I love
absolutely.
that. So with regards to your organization, with regards to Safaricom PLC, and we're about to go on a break, AI and big data is integral to operations, yes?
Right across, as I mentioned, every single department, division within Safaricom relies on big data and AI. As part of our strategy, we call it Strategy House, a biggest enabler there is data. And at the heart of it is really to transform lives. So we make sure that our products and services are developed in such a way that we transform lives. The way that we price, the way that we give service to the customers proactively, and the way that we prevent fraud from happening in their account, especially on the M-Pesa side.
I love that prevention of fraud. I'm actually worried because I bank with Barclays in the UK and I'm always being asked for a voice prompt. Now, if someone can copy my voice, we're going to be back with Charlotte Kepadisa, head of Big Data